I think the essential ingredient for growth is creativity. Nothing has ever been invented that's as good at killing ideas as a corporation. If you can get a whole team who are really excited to make creative things and make things that are different, I think those teams have more of a long-term impact.
Welcome back to yet another very special episode of The Growth Distillery. I'm joined by a man that knows growth very, very well, Mr. Brent Smart. Brent is the current Chief Marketing Officer of Telstra, Australia's second most valuable brand. He is the former CMO of IAG, the former CEO of Saatchi & Saatchi, and it would be remiss of me not to say he is one half of the dynamic duos that are the Black T-shirts.
Oh, yes.
Brent, thank you so much for coming to have a chat to us. I
Pleasure.
really do appreciate it. We're here talking about all things growth and reset. I want to get under the hood of the man behind the brand, so to speak. What do you think the essential ingredients for growth are right now, and has that changed for you over the last decade?
Well, thanks for having me on again. Look, I think the essential ingredient for growth is creativity.
Okay.
I believe that creativity is the thing that sets brands apart. I think creativity is the thing that can, interest people, and particularly in categories where they might not be that interested. And I think creativity also, this really magic thing creativity does, that I think it can also make us feel that brands are worth paying more for. And I think often with growth, we want to talk about, classic kind of customer growth, revenue growth. But I think the bit of growth that marketing can have such a huge influence on is the price people pay for the product, which of course can generate all sorts of positive top line growth.
Transcendent value, like the value beyond the cost.
And that's what the great brands do. And I think creativity is the essential ingredient that helps those great brands unlock that.
And what fuels great creativity in your mind?
The main thing that fuels great creativity in my mind is originality.
Okay.
Doing things that are distinctive. I think I look at a lot of brands and I think that they are all the same. A lot of them are just holding up a mirror, showing real people being real people, and they all start to sort of look a bit the same and act a bit the same. I think similarly, when I look at a lot of experiences, I think we've been also busy trying to make them frictionless and take, really sort of spending a lot of time thinking about how we digitize these different experiences. And I think in many ways we've taken some of the personality and creativity out of those experiences. So I think distinctiveness, originality, doing something that's really different, doing something that really stands out. Look, the world's only getting noisier and noisier. There's never been more content. So I think you've got to do something interesting and creative to stand out and cut through.
And sometimes a bit of friction's a really good thing.
100%. Yeah, like I think, as I said a minute ago, we've been so busy trying to take all the friction out of experiences, making them super convenient. And that's important, right? But by the same token, the memorable experiences often have. Look at the Birkin bag from Hermes, right? Like it's the handbag everyone wants. You can't even buy one. You got to get on a waiting list, and So I think a bit of friction sometimes can be, interesting, worth talking about. Memorable.
Other side of the coin. What's something we're all focused or even fixating on that's actually holding us back from good growth? What's the reset hiding in plain sight?
Yeah, well, I think particularly in the marketing realm, I think it's a fixation on short-term performance. Okay. And look, it's a pressure that every market is under. It's a pressure every business is under. We've never had better tools to deliver short-term growth, right? We've got better data. We can target better. We can optimize in real time. It's all fantastic. But I think that short-term focus, I think we're leaving a lot of growth on the table. Because what you do with short-term performance tactics is you convert existing demand in the marketplace. But what you do when you build brands over the long term is you build future demand for your brand, which you might not see it this quarter. In fact, you probably won't. You might not see it next quarter. You might see it next year, the year after. But taking that long-term view, really thinking that the work we do today won't necessarily just convert demand today. It's actually going to build future demand that at some point in the future we will reap the benefit of. I think that's what the really visionary brand builders do. And I think the businesses that they work for benefit hugely from that.
I deeply respect that answer. And I think the world needs more marketers that are inoculated against that short-termism. In the teams that you've built and led and the brands that you've built, what's been the antidote to that short-term performanceism?
Yeah, I think first thing is having a vision for the brand that is bigger than just what you need to deliver this quarter.
Yep.
So I think being really clear on where the brand's heading, what's the ambition for the brand, how are we going to position the brand. They're all really important pieces of brand building that I think you've got to get right. You've got to spend time and focus on. I think when people are clear of the vision that you're building towards, then you can take more of that long-term view.
Yeah.
The way we measure things is really important. I think we often spend too much time measuring what's happening right now. I think you've got to put in place the metrics that can show that the cumulative benefit of brand building, show how it builds over time, show how that it's not about what we did this month, it's about what we did 3 months ago that's delivering the results right now. Yeah. So that's really important, how we measure things. And I think it's easy to measure things in the short term, really hard to measure things in the long term. But then I think the biggest antidote is building a culture where everyone is really focused on the idea that we will be defined by our output. We're not going to be defined by the PowerPoint presentations we create or having good meetings or great graphs. We're going to be we're going to be defined by the output, what we put into the world, what we make. And I think if you can get a whole team who are really excited to make creative things and make things that are different, that have an impact in the market, that your mum talks about, I think those teams tend to have more of that focus on, let's build great things, let's build things that last, let's build things that have more of a long-term impact.
And you tap into a much deeper well.
100%. And I think people get more excited to come to work and be part of that. And it's certainly what drives me and the reason I want to sort of be a marketer.
Yeah, wonderful. I can imagine that in pushing the envelope in that way, one of the things that you would have to do not infrequently would be challenge convention, right?
Yeah.
Really, particularly when it comes to boards and financiers and, sales chiefs, get them out of their current frame of reference. For those that are listening in that are picking up what you're putting down, what would be your advice to them in terms of the philosophies or the principles to really challenge convention and to compel senior leaders to let go of or jettison baggage? Well,
I think nothing's as infectious as passion and conviction.
Ooh, I love that.
So start there.
Yeah.
I think when you have a very strong opinion and point of view and vision, and you're very convicted,
it's infectious.
It's infectious. It's hard to say no to, and I think other people get excited. And I think, so I always start there. And often you find yourself situations where you actually don't have the data to prove it. We need to take a bit of a leap. And I think it's conviction that gets people to take that leap. Because when you start any endeavor, you don't have the data yet. You don't have the proof. That's going to come.
Yeah.
So I think I'd always start there. I think the other thing is, I think there's this big misnomer that you need to be a brave marketer to do something creative and to, as you say, break the rules. And I think it's braver to do something boring. I think it's really brave, really ballsy to do something boring that no one's going to notice. It's going to be invisible. It's not going to work. I actually think it's not brave. I think it's smart. I think it's smart to do something creative. I think it's smart to do something that isn't following the conventions of a category.
Yeah.
But often it gets labeled as brave. That's the brave, courageous thing to do. I think it's braver to do something dull.
Yeah, and to do something measured.
Do something expected.
Yeah.
And do something that looks like the rest of the category. Again, I come back to my first point about distinctiveness, standing out, being different to the rest of the category is so powerful.
Yeah. When have you gotten it wrong?
Oh, look, I've got it wrong loads of times. I think if you bat it at 100% as a marketer, you'd be lying. So, I think you do get things wrong. I think the key thing is learn fast from it.
Yep.
Be open to the fact that you got it wrong.
Yep.
Learn, pivot, and I think you just always constantly need to be doing that in marketing because we put things out to the world. The great thing is in today's world, we get signals straight away about whether things are working. Like straight away, like the old days, we had to wait for the sort of, the brand tracking to come back.
Yeah.
You get instant signals on whether things are working or not. And I think that lets you then either be really confident that you're on the right track or go, hang on, this isn't landing quite how we thought it was going to land. What can we do to change it up?
And often the game changes can't be measured. And if they can, and if you've got that data, it's been done.
100%. Right? Like, look, any creative work that's going to make a sort of massive impact tends to be something that hasn't been done before, and there just isn't a case study or set of data that says you should do it. You've got to take a leap into the unknown, and that should come from you've got the insights, you know it's the right thing to do. You're convicted, but B, trusting your partners, trusting your agency, and really, being prepared to do something that hasn't been done. It's easy to do something that's been done before. It's easy to copy the category codes. It's easy to sort of just do what everyone else is doing, and I think you got to be wired a bit differently to want to do stuff that's different.
How do you go about cultivating this mental model? And I fundamentally subscribe to it in your leaders, and then further down and entrench that within your teams.
Yeah, look, that's a really good question. I think obviously you got to lead by example, right? So I think part of it is taking the time to really show people what great looks like. That's a really big part of it. I think one thing that we've done a lot of work on, because at Telstra we're doing things at pretty big scale.
Yeah.
And I think what I've learned about trying to sort of do really breakthrough creativity at scales, you need to systematize it.
Yeah, okay.
You need to have certain systems in place where people are able to sort of judge creative in a consistent way, talk about creative in a consistent way. That's a big part of what we've done. But I think in the end, I just think people, again, it's infectious, right? I think people get excited that we're trying to do stuff that's bold and trying to do stuff that is going to make a difference. We're not just sort of mailing it in, and I think that becomes a really sort of contagious thing. Not everyone gets it or wants to do that. There are people who want a quiet life and don't want to sort of rock the boat too much. But I think pretty quickly you start being a culture where everyone feels that we're here to do something great. And hopefully they feel it's a safe place where they can go for great. And if it doesn't come off, it's okay. We'll go again. And
my favourite metaphor is everybody swimming in the pool in the same direction. You can't help but get caught up in that momentum.
Look, 100%. I think it's a bit of a cliche, but culture eats strategy for breakfast. I'm a big believer of that. I think what's really interesting inside a corporation, I always say, nothing has ever been invented that's as good at killing ideas as a corporation. They're built to kill ideas, right? So if you can create a creative culture inside a corporation, it's an incredibly powerful thing because they don't normally exist in corporations. Yeah. And so if you can create that sort of really creative culture, innovative culture, it's crazy powerful inside a corporation.
Love that. Last one from me, if I may.
Yeah.
If you could go back 20 years and have a chat with Brent and reset your thinking on one big frame of reference, knowing what you know now with the success that you've had, what would that be and why?
Well, I'd buy Apple stock.
Yeah. That's a cheat code.
Well, I think, look, it took me a while to get to being a marketer, right? So I did 20 years in agencies and I loved my time in agencies. But I got to a point where the driving sort of motivation for me to go client side and become a marketer was frustration with clients. So I was just frustrated that I felt like we were putting the right sort of ideas on the table, but they weren't getting through the corporations that we were working with for a multitude of reasons. And so from that frustration came this sort of desire to, well, what if I could be on the other side of the table? What if I could be able to say yes to ideas, create the conditions for ideas to not die but thrive? Yeah. That would be awesome. I kind of wish I had got there a bit earlier. Yeah. Like I think if I had a sort of embarked on that a bit earlier in my career and maybe changed over a bit sooner, I think I could have potentially had even more impact on this side of the fence. But I love it. I love being a CMO. I feel like I could have more impact as a CMO than I could in agencies. Yeah. So that would be the big thing for me, just realizing earlier that actually, it's cool working in agencies, but you can have more impact, I think, really being in sort of in charge of a brand as opposed to, trying to influence people who are in charge of a brand.
I love that philosophy, in pursuit of impact. Brent,
always.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute delight.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.